Are you even interested in this video? Or did the algorithm just feed it to you while you were taking a dump? Well, as you can see, well, this is not dissimilar from what I'll be doing when I'm traveling, but I am still not traveling. The weather along the whole East Coast wasn't really cooperative this week, and I decided to err on the side of I don't want to suffer needlessly, and so I'll be leaving out Monday to travel and work. But the market did yield me some gigs over the last few days to make sure that I can survive. But we'll get into that later on in the video. This video is about millions of Americans losing interest in everything. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to go out. They don't want to buy shit. They don't want to do their hobbies, which used to make them happy, but now seemingly don't. And if you've watched my Make Boredom Great Again video, you know, that was me stumbling upon something that I should be doing that I haven't been doing that might help me be more creative. So I've been experimenting in the time since that video. And what I've been doing is very deliberate times of low dopamine input, as in no screens, none of that shit. And essentially giving my brain a break. You see, if you're consuming content all the time, if your nose is buried in your phone anytime you get an idle moment, followed by any stimulation you get in your external environment, you know, barring work, but even at work, people are nose in the phones. I see it all the time when I'm out here, because my gig does send me into plenty of workplaces, and anytime people that work there get a moment, they put their face in their phone. So your brain is constantly sucking in all of this shit that needs processing. And some people can process better than others. Look around you. I'm sure you can figure out who that is. But you don't give yourself an opportunity to come down from your dopamine baseline, essentially. So I don't take screens in the bathroom with me anymore. If I have to shit, I have to stare at the wall. I like to take baths, particularly magnesium Epsom salt baths, because I'm old and sore a lot, and it does help. And I used to bring a tablet in and watch shit while I was doing that. Now I stare at the water, stare at the wall. And some of the things I'm finding, there's some positive benefits to this and some negative benefits to this. That, you know, everyone touts the positive benefits. If you look into dopamine fasts or, you know, productivity hacks or whatever, however they frame this method of basically snapping out of it, there's an upside and a downside. And I've experienced both, and I want to share with you. So I would on a daily level take these breaks. Also, another thing I've done is on YouTube. Yeah, it involves a screen, but I'm the kind of person that really enjoys and relaxes staring at a campfire, or any fire for that matter. Turns out it's baked into our DNA that was the form of entertainment for thousands of years. So if we were going to lower our dopamine baseline, staring at a fire would be the way to go. And just being there with you, staring at the fire in your head. So what I found is when I take these breaks, whether it's laying down staring at a fire video on YouTube or sitting in the bath or taking a dump, or even out in the car, just turning everything off and focusing on driving, which I want to get to that because that's something that's interesting as well. My brain, now I don't know if it's just me, but my brain flares up with activity when I do this. Some of the YouTubers I've seen that were saying that they do this, they say after about 15, 20 minutes, they snap out of their little trance, and any time after that is a waste of time. I don't have that. If I sat in a room staring at a wall for an hour, my brain would be throwing ideas and going through thoughts and going into rabbit holes the entire hour. That is a tremendous boost to creativity. So when I started to realize this, I'm like, I got to write this shit down, because the moment you go and sit back down and turn those screens back on and get the dopamine algorithm fed horse shit stuffed into your fucking head, your brain's going to make room for the new shit by flushing those shiny new ideas you just had in the shitter. So I've now taken to writing down anything I come up with when I'm during these boredom times, during this staring at the wall times. And it's helping me out. It's helping me make more content. It's giving me ideas on how to do with my personal finance, how to trade, all that kind of stuff. Even though I'm not super active trading, we'll get into that at the end of the video with the update as well. But it's definitely sparking that creative juices, and it's also pushing me. And this could be a bad thing, by the way. The downside is, yeah, it might lower my dopamine baseline, but my dopamine system starts screaming at that point. And it's not screaming for just staring at screens. It's screaming for, like, you need to go tie one down, or you need to gamble, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. I need more dopamine because we just went down, and I'm detecting it, and you need to do something to shoot that fucker right back up. So I'm noticing that. It doesn't, I don't know how long you need to be down to reset your baseline, but what I'm finding is doing this small break method, 20 minutes here, 1 hour there, being present in the moment, does cause cravings for more dopamine activities than normal, as in, going on the screen just ain't enough at that point. Your body's like trying to rebalance to get back up to the baseline that we've all been stuck at. And that baseline leaves us not interested in anything. Nothing satisfies that dopamine hit if our baseline is just this constant influx of information from our screens, and this being involved in politics and staring at the news every day and doom scrolling and just this constant string of bullshit getting stuffed into our brain every day. And then we process it all day. We get stressed out. We get, irritable. We do all of these things, and nothing that we do that should bring us dopamine, like our hobbies or things we enjoy, works. And that's why I feel, and this is just my humble, non-expert opinion, that's why I feel like there's this large group of people that are screaming out on the internet that nothing interests them anymore. And then you add in the fact that everything's more expensive and our paychecks aren't going up. Some people are getting laid off. The things economically are sucking on top of this massive shift in people not doing things they enjoy. People that watch sports aren't enjoying that. Like, I'm seeing these in the feed. Just people, turns out a lot of people now turn on TikTok or YouTube shorts to bitch. And this is one of the things that's popping up over and over in my feed. You can go look for it. Just do a search on nothing matters anymore, or Americans aren't interested in anything anymore, along those lines. And you'll just find tons of videos of people saying this exact thing, that nothing seems to, they're not motivated to do anything anymore. And I've made some new music tracks as a result of staring at the wall. I've come up with some ideas for videos and some things I'm going to work on in the future. And all of this is when I took a break from that algorithm. But like I said, the flip side is my dopamine system's like, what the fuck, man? What? Get out there, get some more, reward. We need more rewards. You need to go do this. Your brain remembers anything that gives you a dopamine hit. So whatever gives you the largest dopamine hit when you take these breaks, that is going to be what you crave, what you're motivated to go do. And it's intense. This would be why drug addicts go to rehab and then come out and they relapse, because our system is wired to do this, I feel like. So it's really hard to break addictions. You have to go extremely long lengths of time, far below your dopamine baseline, and endure these it's going to take a lot of discipline that most people don't have, mind you, to break that addiction, whatever the addiction is. And the lower you go on the baseline, the more your body's going to pick those top tier dopamine activities. And most of the top tier dopamine activities are really, really fucking bad for your life, for your health, for everything, and having lost somebody recently to these types of things, it's got me really trying to figure it out, to try to not go down a similar path. And, I've lowered the amount of drinking I do in my life. I've lowered, I haven't lowered the screen time though. I still do plenty of that. But like I said, I found myself wanting to do riskier trading and try and chase losses and all of that kind of horse shit that gambling does. And that's because my dopamine center is like, you get a lot of dopamine when you have a successful, profitable trade where you 10x your fucking whatever your trade was. And my brain's like, hey, do that. It's stopping just shy of sending me back to the poker table, which I don't have money for any of that shit right now. So obviously that is a very negative thing for my life, and I don't want to get sucked in. So now I got to figure out, if you go back in my videos, I have this alternate theory about addiction transfer, that you can't reduce addiction. You have to transfer addiction to something that satisfies that, or multiple things that give you the same amount of dopamine as the thing you're trying to stop doing. And that, that could be as simple as trading drinking for traveling across the country and visiting all the national parks. That has a risk. You can get lost in the woods and die, but at the same time, it breaks you from being in the bar every night or doing anything else that's unhealthy. So while I haven't necessarily solved the issue of not being interested in things anymore, I now at least have a tool in my toolbox to lower my baseline enough that some of the things that I enjoy that are healthy addictions, like making music, making videos, making content, things that used to bring me enjoyment, regardless of trying to make money with them. That's the other thing, that everything's been gamified, and that'll suck the life out of just about any hobby, is trying to do it to make money off of it. But I've always monetized my hobbies, whether it's, $10 here and there or what have you. But my point is I was right there with the millions of Americans losing interest in everything. It's like, why bother? And the older you get, the worse that gets too. It's like, I'm going to die anyway, so what's the point? So I will say, while the trade-off is risky in terms of the dopamine cravings, maybe if I do this over a long period of time and make this part of my baseline, eventually, I won't have those cravings or those desires pop up higher simply because I'm lowering my dopamine baseline. I don't know the science behind that. I haven't done my homework. Maybe you can ask AI to do it for you, because that seems to be what we do now. But I think this is only like one piece of the puzzle. I think if you add this in with the economy right now isn't motivating at all either. You could work your whole life and still be homeless. There's plenty of examples of that. You could be loyal to a company for 10, 20 years, and then they're like, oh, our stock number went down, and they'll send you packing without even a thought or a goodbye, and you'll be forgotten within 2 weeks. All of these things are demotivating, and I think we need to start examining the balance between how much shit we allowed to be shoved in our head through algorithms and this phone, and how much we just sit and come up with our own ideas and and be present in our immediate surroundings, as opposed to being present on social media or present for the mainstream media. As in, start living your life, I guess, would be the thing. And your life is where you are right now and your immediate surroundings. And yes, can somebody in Washington affect that? Absolutely. But it tends to be more localized than that, I find. Like, my lifestyle here and the cost of living here in New York is different than a place like West Virginia or Kentucky. Those areas have far more... where you live has far more control, and the local government has far more control over your quality of life than the orange man in Congress, and all they're going to do is they're going to suck money out of you. That's all the federal government's designed to do, is to transfer more and more wealth from you to their constituents, and that's doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum they're on. That is their job. And if you don't believe me, it's, our debt has not gone down. Nothing has improved, and pretty soon federal government will be insolvent, and then it'll just be chaos at that point. And yeah, worry about it then, because nothing you do now, running around the streets, throwing yourself in front of vehicles and randomly attacking people that look like they might oppose your political view, none of that's going to make a difference. None of it. And going in the ballot box, that ain't going to make a difference either. How you live your life, though, maybe you can move. If enough people do it, maybe we can move the needle. And that's basically shifting our priorities and what we give our time to. That goes for who you work for. That goes for how you spend your money that you do earn. That is your ultimate control. That is something you can do right now. And there's this growing movement of people taking themselves out of the loop, essentially refusing to participate in things they don't agree with. Stop giving money to corporations that hate you, essentially. Stop going to coffee shops or restaurants that oppose, oppose you, that hate you because you vote a certain way, or that you look a certain way, or that you act a certain way, trying to control you, and essentially, or losing an election and throwing a fucking temper tantrum about it. That can go either way, can it? That's not democracy. That's, oh, my guy didn't win, so I'm going to, find other ways to make my guy win. And all of that is just corrupt, power grabbing nonsense. And it's down to like person to person at this point. Everybody wants to feel that they're the virtue signaling motherfucker, that, and if you're not doing what they're doing, there's something wrong with you, and it's just spiraled out of control what should happen to you if you don't go with their political views, and I've seen this example in my personal life. And let's just say I don't have a lot of friends right now because I've cut them off. I don't want this in my life. I don't want to be judged based on whatever algorithm you subscribe to. I want to be judged on the kind of person I am, the things I do for people, or the things I do to help people, not on who I think should run for office or whether or not I agree with a government policy. Which in the end of the day, none of that shit matters in your interpersonal relationship. Over the years, I'd been perfectly capable of being friends with people on different political spectrums. As a libertarian, I can be friends with the far left and the far right of that political spectrum. and not blink too much. But now it's getting to the point where if you're not with us, you're against us is entering people's thoughts. You can see it in the protests, or the riots, depending on how you want to label those. But that being said, if you're not with us, you're against us is not a very healthy thing to bring into interpersonal relationships that otherwise would have been productive and given you all sorts of positive experiences in your life. But what the fuck do I know about that, right? And that's another reason why people are being demotivated is personal relationships are falling apart. Where the division has become so strong that that's the mentality. If you're not with me, then I don't want you in my life. Anybody who disagrees with this, delete me off Facebook. Those fucking people. Those are the people that I cut out of my life. I don't want anything to do with somebody that thinks like that. Period. Just because I don't agree with your view on policies, we're supposed to go and vote that shit out. Allegedly. We're supposed to go and sort out, and then whatever the general majority, for the most part, we're a republic. We're not a popular vote type of nation. But still, because let's face it, large groups of people can be stupid. You can just ask George Carlin about that. And listen, browbeating your neighbor into voting the way you vote, it's not a good personality trait. It really speaks volumes as to, how you view others. It's one thing to try and convince somebody of something and, to agree to disagree if it doesn't work out, because most people are pretty set in their ways. But it's a whole other thing to persecute somebody because they don't agree with you. And this is a demotivating factor because personal relationships are falling apart. Friendships, families, they're all falling apart. They're all being driven through by the algorithm. And depending on which echo chamber you live in on your screen, it's going to dictate who you have in your life. And let's face it, friendships and relationships, they are what we really are here for. All the rest of the shit, the materialism, the consumerism, that's to spike your endless dopamine cravings. But the serotonin comes from strong, good, loyal friends and from relationships. Girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, however you label your shit. It's fine, but don't let it be your identity, And you just add this shit show all together, and yeah, there's nothing that is appealing to do anymore. I like playing video games. I don't want to buy any video games right now. Gee, I wonder why. Because it's becoming completely shitified cash grab at this point that's now trying to inject politics into my escapism. So yeah, I'm not giving them money, and the gaming industry is currently in the toilet because of it. It's examples like that. Most of our hobbies have been shitified in some way. So, all of these factors have added up. So I don't think it's just can be narrowed down to one thing. I feel like no matter what you do, there are headwinds that are preventing you from enjoying what you're doing. If you're into music, guess what? You're not going to make money at it anymore. Why? It rhymes with AI, plain and simple. Even being a content creator now, I am starting to find, by the way, this is not stopping me because I enjoy the actual process of sitting here talking to you guys, responding to your comments, talking to you in the premiere, and kind of getting an idea. It's my socialness at this point, outside of me and my girlfriend. But if that wasn't a factor, if I didn't enjoy that aspect of this, then I would completely stop making content at this point. Why? Well, it turns out when I do throw my brain into the algorithm and let them bat it around like a cat with a fucking cat toy, I'm getting batted around more and more by fucking AI pure AI videos. Now, in the past, I'm like, okay, AI could be a good tool for a already creative person, to maybe be more efficient, to do things that you can't afford to do, and I even trained AI on me so that I could make little videos of me doing shit that I couldn't afford nor had the budget or any of the other skills necessary to make those things happen, but I still wanted those things in my content. But it's gone too far because now you have just farms and farms of, who knows, of people, because we don't know who's behind it all. But at the scale that it's at, I'd have to say there are just rooms full of motherfuckers, probably in India or China or one of these countries, that are just cranking out this AI content and raking in hundreds of thousands of views with it. And I've been tricked into watching it. Once I figure out that I'm watching AI, I'm like, oh, that's that. And it's getting now to where I can spot it within the first minute of the video on whether or not I'm watching AI. But I'll even bring you an example so you can go see for yourself. There's a channel called Kenzo Finance. As you know, I like to keep up with economics and trading, because even though I'm pretty much pulled out of the market with the exception of like $100 I have in right now, which I use to dabble in trades and try and test theories out at this point. But I still like to keep up with methodologies, trading theories, what's happening with Bitcoin, what's happening with crypto, what's happening with the S&P, and the overall economy. Well, I started getting this Kenzo Finance channel, and it's a guy, and he's kind of monotone, and he's constantly talking to the camera like this, but the AI voice that, it's really convincing. And he even goes so far as he has a background with the little YouTube plaque, and he has the mic and everything. And his movements are always like this. Like he's talking the whole time, and I'm watching his hands, and I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. Plus, his face is mostly expressionless as he talks. His blinking is regular, which is not how people go. As a former poker player, I studied that for a long time. So something just wasn't sitting right, but the information was solid. So whatever Chat GPT or Gemini algorithm was writing the dialogue of this video, and he was interspersing other AI visuals within that. But for the most part, he's just like the whole time. And last night I had it confirmed because an entirely another channel that had nothing to do with this channel was using the same AI avatar, but they sucked at something because it would stutter every now and then, and some of the words wouldn't just flow naturally, like it'd overpronounce letters of a word instead of just telling you the word, that kind of stuff. And I was like, motherfucker, because they got me with that one. And the algorithm, so you might be losing interest in watching YouTube videos, or maybe you like the AI content. But if I wanted that, I would go prompt it myself. I have AI in my phone. It's okay. But whenever I have a question that I want AI to answer, I like to be the one to go ask them that question and have that discussion with AI, should I choose to use AI. What I don't want is somebody doing that and masquerading as a content creator and feeding it to me. And none of these videos have a flag. You see, when you create a video, you have a little thing that says, was any of these things, there's like criteria. Did you make a real person look like they said or did something that they didn't do, or to do something that didn't happen? Okay, somebody's filming a YouTube video right now in the parking lot. A TikTok looks like. That's basically, that was distracting. I don't want that, and that's the direction YouTube is heading. Is they're going to promote this? And what's suspicious about it to me is who's getting the ad revenue for these? Because, I don't know. It would seem like a nice, awesome corporate thing to do. Something that corporations would do and are doing, particularly in the music industry, to just post AI created content and keep 100% of the ad revenue. I don't see how a company like Google and YouTube doesn't take advantage of that. Spotify is doing it, so why not YouTube? I don't trust corporations to not be greedy, and that would be a very greedy move. So when over half the videos I watch now turn out to be AI, that fireplace video I told you about, guess what? Tons of AI created videos to relax to have scenes to play out that literally just play like 3 or 4 AI clips over and over again. That fills up my algorithm ever since I started leaving the fireplace on whenever I'm not watching shit or when I'm just sitting there. So now I've, and in the videos that are these AI get 40 to 250,000 views. Whereas my videos, I struggle to break 1,000 nowadays. And that's probably going to get harder and harder the more of this AI shit you have to wade through. Because it turns out and I'm not, this is alleged, I can't prove any of this, but if I were to theorize on a profitable strategy for YouTube, they create or have a large group of people that are very low paid create these AI videos, and then they push those videos over regular content, and then they keep 100% of the ad revenue. I hope I'm wrong. Because if I'm right about that, then being a content creator for a living is, unless you're one of the chosen, it's not gonna be viable. Now, I imagine they won't completely replace us with AI because they'll need to sprinkle in legit creators to train these algorithms. But every video I've uploaded over the course of my time here on YouTube has been used to train these AI models to create these videos, to create these avatars. And while they're not perfect yet, they've definitely gotten to a point where it's getting harder and harder to spot. I like documentaries. I can't tell you how many AI videos I have to sift through now that are AI narrated, AI written, and AI visuals. All AI. And yeah, somebody probably had to do a little work to edit, but wouldn't surprise me if AI was editing as well. I have to sort through 5-6 of those to get to content creators that are creating this stuff. And I also find that I have to rely on my subscription feed more and more every day for the creators I know that have been around for years, just to know that I'm watching an actual legit person instead of AI. But the problem with that is for every one of me, there's probably 20 people, and you can just look at the numbers of the views on these videos, that watch AI and they don't care that it's AI. In fact, I'm 100% positive of that because I personally know several individuals who watch AI content, particularly on the short form side of things, and they'll watch the whole thing. When I see AI shit, I flick now. I don't like shorts, but if I were to watch shorts, I would flick anytime I saw AI. And I'm doing the same thing on YouTube. When I see AI, I know YouTube doesn't like when you click off the video after less than a minute if it's a 30-minute video. So, that's the only way I know to fight this. But at the end of the day, unless the majority of people stop watching these 100% AI videos, they're going to take over. Because I cannot view a corporation standing on principle at the expense of profit. So, yet another reason you might not be enjoying things, because even the algorithm's pimping you out AI shit, and you probably are craving real shit. I don't know. But all of these things are demotivating. And as much as I'd like to blame it on our addictive screen habits and our fucking reliance on the algorithm to feed us our knowledge and our opinions, at the end of the day, we're the ones allowing it. We're the ones that are doing it. And until we stop, corporations aren't going to stop. They're not. You think Facebook is going to stop? 3/4 of the posts on there are fucking AI. They got fucking people that are AI. So already social media arguably has fucked up our dopamine system, but now they've put AI in the mix so they can keep more of the ad revenue and keep more of the, selling of your data. Everything's just shit. And the only way to avoid shit, honestly, is to stare at the wall, consume old analog content, Blu-rays, play vintage video games, buy shit secondhand, and stop giving them your attention, your money, and your time. If you can stop those things and enough people do it, things will change. I'm under no illusion that you're going to get people to do these kinds of things. People like their dopamine, and they don't know any better. Most people don't understand these concepts. They don't know what's making them sit there and flick on their phone all day. Some of them might become aware enough to realize it's a problem. But you've got an entire generation raised on tablets and phones at this point, and another generation about to be coming in behind them. And then you wonder why everything is shit. But my rules that I'm following right now to try and at least give myself breaks from this shit. Number 1, be present in the moment as much as possible. That means instead of grabbing your phone when you're sitting in a restaurant with your loved ones, grabbing a phone when you're taking a dump, grabbing a phone when you're taking a bath or a shower, or grabbing a phone at any time that you just need idle moments, and just sit there and be present in the moment. That's my first rule. And these are rules for me, not necessarily for thee. These are what I'm trying to do. And I'll keep letting you know how it's going. Another rule is intentionally give yourself at least a 1 hour break a day with no screen time. Just stare at the wall, stare at a fire video if you absolutely have a screen that you can't get away from. Keep your phone in another room. Don't be available. This is your time to yourself. No one else is allowed. And have that time with your brain and process things that you've already taken in. I find it's good that when you do this intentional time without your screens, a time of boredom, go in there thinking about a problem in your life that you want to solve, or something that you wish you could think of a way to accomplish. And you'll find, at least I do, that my brain is primed to start processing those thoughts and come up with ideas. As I said in the other video, if Einstein had one of these, we wouldn't have nukes. I'm just saying. So give yourself the opportunity to think. because when you are watching a screen, and I 100% am guilty of this, if I'm just consuming content all the time and constantly overstimulated and constantly processing with things that are going on that, quite frankly, have no direct effect on me whatsoever, like, I'm not in Mexico. I'm not worried about the cartel blowing up my hotel. Well, it's nice to kind of know that in case I decide there, but what good would it do for me to, you see what, that's an example, it's taking up space in my brain and making me worry about things that I have absolutely no control over and that honestly aren't affecting me at this point. Those two things. So far too many people are too overconnected, and you cannot be expected to process every bad thing that happens on the planet. And I would argue our ancestors, although they lived a lot shorter lives, probably had a better quality of life because they didn't know what happened 200, 300, 1,000 miles away. They know what happened in their little village most of the time. And they had to deal with that. And turns out that's plenty. So, I don't know. Zoom back in instead of zooming out and focus on your life and your direct things you can control. And that's kind of the principle there. So, I'm doing more of that. I'm also taking notes. After I finish that at least once a day boredom session, any ideas I come up with or solutions, I write them down. Because, like I said, the first moment some screen comes back on, my brain's going to make room for the new information, and it's going to cast out the easiest stuff, which is the ideas I had while in the bathroom or in the shower or staring at the wall or staring at fire. So write it down or lose it, and you're not even going to remember everything that you thought of during this downtime. So, it'll be a real test of your memory if you do it. So those are the rules I'm following now. If down in the comments, if you think that there's some other things I could try to add to this to maybe start to lower that dopamine baseline, to get a little more disconnected from this enshittified system that's designed to suck all of our attention, all of our money, and all of our time away from us, and all of our wealth. What are you doing? Have you also found yourself less interested in things that you used to do for fun? Because most of the things that I used to do for fun have been completely enshittified at this point. How are you combating that? What can you, like, if you enjoy making videos, or you enjoy taking pictures, or you enjoy playing video games, how are you divorcing from this complete insanity that's taken over all of these hobbies in our life? And the last frontier of hobbies that they haven't completely fucked up yet is nature. Going out in nature, camping, going for walks. And when I say camping, I don't mean at the family campground. I mean in places where there's not a lot of people, And I find that going to a family campground is way more stressful than backpacking through a national park or what have you. Although they've enshittified that a little bit with this whole permit. You need a permit to take a shit, and it costs money. So there's that. But I'm open to suggestions at this point. I know I'm just in the fucking dark, shining a flashlight around at this point, trying to solve problems with my life. But I know I'm not alone in people with problems right now. So let's come up with some ideas. But before you sit down and write your comment, try it. Go. Take that question with you. What should I do? What do I do to combat this system that's designed to extract everything from us? And how do I combat this problem of losing interest in everything? Take that thought with you, or that question, write it down if you have to, and go stare at a wall for an hour just thinking about that. And, if you did that, maybe you came up with some really fucking great ideas. So, we'll see. All right, update time. So trading, like I mentioned briefly, I have $100 in my trading account, and I'm trying out some new things. Particularly, I'm trying out trading in. Well, the first thing I'm trading is in prediction markets. Yeah, it's gambling, motherfucker. But I'm following a strict set of trading rules because honestly, the stock market is gambling, crypto is gambling. It's all gambling. If you're trading, you're gambling. Period. Doesn't matter what you're trading on. You don't know what's going to happen 90% of the time, no matter how much indicators you can read and all that shit. There's maybe 4% of people that can actually be profitable. So I figure prediction market is a good place to do something to test, probabilities and the system out. So the thing I've been following so far is it's called the 5% rule. Well, there's two different rules. There's a 2% rule and a 5% rule. So I'm only allowed to involve in any single trade, and I chose the 5% just to test it out. 5% of my total portfolio or total bankroll, going back. And I'm kind of following on principles for being a poker player here as well. Although poker players, they need the 2% rule. So no single trade is more than 5%, and no more than 2 or 3 trades at a time. And none of them should be on the same thing. And the first week I did that, I was up 20%. And then I had a losing streak of trades after that. And now I'm at even again from where I started. So, yeah. And the principle is that percentage never changes. So if you have $1 million and you're doing that rule, obviously your trade is going to be a certain percentage of that. And I talked with AI a bit on this, and this is pretty much, the most positive EV. The other aspect is picking games and whether or not they're rigged and all of that kind of horse shit, and looking for edges. That's the other side of it. And the edge I'm looking for right now is I know that people bet based on their fandom a lot of the times in the prediction market. So I look for what should be a coin flippy type game that is clearly underpriced on one of the teams, so that you can essentially, if you buy it at that price, by some point in the game, it's going to go up to 50-50, and then you could potentially profit that way by selling at that point. Or you can just sit on it and hope the coin flip plays out in your favor. It doesn't really matter which one you do mathematically. So that's what I'm looking at, testing it out on a $100 bankroll. If it busts, clearly, if it doesn't work with $100, it wouldn't work with 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 100,000. So, I'm sitting here in this fucking parking lot. Now, normally this area of the parking lot's empty, but I'm just sitting here filming my video and people are just parking next to me. I'm way far away from the building here. Lifestyle wise, I'll be loading up in the van on probably Monday and heading out to head south. My retirement, I'm good to go for the month. I'm also good to go for next month. It's a little tight. I'd like to have more of a I guess, buffer for April. So I'm trying to build that up first to have that buffer for April. My retirement with just quitting my job and YOLOing out here is continuing. I've been able to scrape together enough money in the gig economy to survive another month. And I'll just keep pressing till I can't press no more. I'm no longer just sitting here thinking that, well, fuck, I'm going to be homeless. I might as well get my backpack ready, be ready to not have a vehicle anymore. So, and there might be some other opportunities on the horizon that keep me going through all of this. But I doubt it. there's some other plays to be made, particularly in a debt consolidation type play, which would allow me to own the van outright, which means it wouldn't get repoed if I couldn't make my payments, that kind of thing, but might have other implications in my life. But we'll figure that out later. As for now, I am still continuing retirement. That's right. Yeah. But what the fuck do I know? Are you losing interest in everything? What are you doing about it? Please like and subscribe for more shit. Now I'll make more shit. If you like this video and you want me to spend more time creating more videos for your consumption to combat the AI apocalypse of YouTube content, please become a channel member. The more I make there, the less time I have to spend in the gig economy, and more time I can make videos and edit videos, because it's very time consuming. So there's that. There's a couple videos waiting for you if you become a member today, including one where I looked at me from 1998 all the way up till now, and yeah, it was very interesting and cringy video. So that one's there for you to watch if you become a member today. Also, I'll be releasing music in a royalty-free manner, as in if you download it off of the member-only videos, then you want to use it in your own content, just as long as you tell people it was mine. Don't sell it directly yourself. But you can use it in the background of your videos or whatever, your content that you make on TikTok or what have you, and that kind of shit. And I'm fine with that, as long as you're a channel member. If you're not a channel member and I catch you doing it, then we got a problem. So, but anyways, that's how I'm trying to keep the channel going, and hopefully YouTube getting their 30% for me will put my video in front of eyeballs and allow the channel maybe to grow again someday. But as of right now, it hasn't grown in 3 years. I don't anticipate them letting me grow anytime soon, especially since the watch time is being heavily skewed into the AI department and less skewed towards us content creators. So, but that's where I'm at. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being a channel member if you're a channel member. And have a nice motherfucking day. And shit. Now I'm going to go try and do a few deliveries. And probably get some food. I'm a little hungry.